You're not my dad!
What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again. See, I do not understand. Sometimes the lighting in here has your girl looking good, golden, bronzed, goddess, and sometimes it be having me look fresh out the morgue, like somebody did not know how to match my skin tone, gray as hell. I do not know what is going on or why. So, bear with me as I figure out the best angles, the best way for me to be so that y'all can see that I am not pale as hell. Like, this camera be having me looking mostly ghostly sometimes, and I do not get it. Auntie Housins, we are here to watch some Tier Zoo. I believe this is his most recent video, question mark, and it is called Our Bats OP. I don't really know anything about bats, except I think I might be scared of them. I'm not entirely sure because there's only been a couple of times where I've encountered bats like in the wild and I was pretty far away, so I didn't actually have to deal with them. But if like one flew toward me, I'd probably freak the fuck out. Not because I think it's gonna bite me or have rabies or anything, but just, you know, I got a lot of hair and I just feel like, my hair and bats, bad mix, just not a good idea. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Speaking of which, my hair is a mess. What the hell? Let's get started. We'll do this. Let's do this.
Enemy spotted.
Oh! He snatched that nigga up. That's fucked up.
This episode is sponsored by CuriosityStream. You'd be hard-pressed to come up with a build that had a greater impact on the metagame in 2020 than the Bat build. And while they certainly do have an uncanny affinity for spawning mutated zoonotic viruses, there's a lot more to bats than just that. The Bat build is unique in several ways, so today we're breaking down the Bat build to discuss its stats, special abilities, matchup spread, unique class variants, and finally where they place overall in the tier list. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You took that without further ado from me, didn't you? Admit it, Tier Zoo, you watch my videos. You love me. You love me. You love me.
The Bat sports a pretty wide range of both high and low stats. Their key stat is mobility, of course, and it's kind of a given that any flying build will have high aerial mobility but be lacking in their other movement options. Bats take this a step further though, having thinner, more flexible wings that cover both their arms and legs, that allow for far greater speed and precision of movement mid-air than most bird builds can achieve. In fact, while technically peregrine falcons can reach higher speeds during their dives, bats actually hold the record for the fastest flight speed in the game. This incredible mobility comes at a cost though, as we'll see with the bat's other stats. Bats have some of the weakest defenses in the game. Their thin, membranous wings are far less resistant to tears and scratches than feathered wings, meaning even a single hit from a relatively weak attack or mid-air collision might mean game over for a bat player. The bat's other stats also tend to be quite low. They aren't exactly stealthy flyers, and make much more noise than other nocturnal aerial builds like the owls. They also have pretty abysmal damage output. This makes sense though, as they don't really need it for offense, and if they're ever attacked, their defense and HP are so low that it would already be too late to strike back. So it's actually optimal to just stick to their hypermobile strategy and hope their other special abilities can carry them. Before we get into discussing special abilities, first we have to break down the different variations within the Bat class, since the most important special abilities are not shared among all bats. All of these variations fall into one of two categories: microbats and megabats. Microbats are smaller and have a highly specialized nocturnal playstyle. They heavily favored spending evolution points on their hearing sense rather than vision, and so their eyes are quite small and not very useful. However, in addition to having excellent hearing, the microbats' heavy investment into the auditory skill tree grants them access to an extremely powerful unique ability, Echolocation.
Okay, so that just unlocked like a hidden memory in my brain, and I don't know what it was from. I don't know what it's from. I don't know where it comes from. I just said the same thing twice. Pardon me, guys. I had too much energy drink, so my brain is all over the place. What I'm trying to say is, I don't know where the song comes from, but at one point in my childhood, there was this song I heard, and it was like, echo, echo, echolocation, I found my prey, I found my way, echolocation. On, like, in that same, like, I don't know, vein, I guess. I think maybe from the same people. There was a song about symbiosis. Did I say that right? And it was like about this bird that eats the little buggies off like the rhino or something. I don't know. I don't remember where it came from, but that unlocked something to me. It awakened. The weekend. Let's continue.
Echolocation is a sound-based perception perk that allows the user to completely negate any stealth bonuses a player would normally have because of camouflage. It also allows bats to track the location of other flying players in the air, giving them greatly increased accuracy against airborne targets. It also greatly lowers the risk of collision while flying in tightly packed groups or through dense forests. This ability is definitely the most impressive aspect of the bat build, and the most integral to making their nocturnal playstyle viable.
Okay.
While most microbats survive entirely via the XP they get from PvP against flying insects, the microbat faction also contains the vampire bat, a strange parasitic build that uses its flight ability to stealthily drain small amounts of HP from other players. While I like the concept in theory, I feel like the Bloodsucker playstyle is done much more effectively by builds like the Mosquito and Tick, both of which have high enough stealth to actually succeed in their attacks even when the target is wide awake. Vampire bats, on the other hand, are not stealthy enough to drain a full blood meal from a conscious target. And given their extremely low defense, they cannot risk taking a hit while draining HP. It's likely that the vampire bats had far more success back before the truly giant mammal builds got banned, as these mammals would have had much more difficulty detecting and swatting away such a small flying parasite.
What are you gonna do?
Aside from also having the ability to fly, the Megabat faction has a very different strategy than Microbats. The Megabat player base is diurnal, and as such, they did not spec far into the auditory skill tree at the cost of their vision. Quite the opposite, in fact. Megabats have excellent vision, but they cannot use the echolocation ability. In theory, this
So that means the phrase blind as a bat don't mean shit. Got it.
Is a better strategy, rather than spending a bunch of evolution
These bats
points
are cuter
on the
than the other
expensive
bats.
high-level sonar ability. It's more efficient to just go
Even
for
though
a
they
more
don't have the
standard
ears.
vision upgrade, and still have plenty of points left over to pump into things like direct base stat boosts. This is what allows Megabats to grow several times larger than their nocturnal cousins. Now, due to their lack of echolocation, there's pretty much no way they could attack flying insects midair with any sort of accuracy.
Okay.
So Megabats opt for an herbivorous playstyle, and use their power of flight to access the best loot, similar to parrots. Despite being a much easier playstyle, I actually think it's nearly as viable as the Microbat strategy, provided there's enough fruit around to sustain the energy needs required by a flying mammal.
Look, using his little hands.
So how do bats fare against their most common encounters? As I said before, microbats have excellent matchups against flying insects. That's pretty much a given since they're specifically specialized for that matchup. Moths in particular have actually started speccing into their own sonar abilities in order to jam bat echolocation so that they aren't such a free kill all the time. This still has a long way to go before it has much of an effect on the matchup. Microbats are also occasionally able to score kills on amphibian players, though personally I see this as more of an indictment of the frog's abysmal defensive stats than it is praise of the bat's offensive ability. Surprisingly, the biggest threats to bats are stationary ambush builds, since echolocation doesn't do a great job picking out other players who aren't moving.
Smart.
Snakes in particular can detect them using their heat vision, and can lash out and score a kill while they're passing by.
Chomp.
Spiderwebs can pose a major problem to careless bat players too, as most bats are actually light enough to be restrained mid-flight if they run into them.
The poor
However, skilled bat players can actually pinpoint the spider player via echolocation and snatch them right out of their web, so this matchup is by no means one-sided.
That's right,
Echolocation
homie.
also allows
Get
bats to detect
revenge.
players that have made the mistake of being at the surface of the water, even in the dark. Making an attack on one of these targets is a bit of a gamble too, though.
Yeah, I was gonna
Megabats,
say.
in contrast, have great difficulty dealing with birds of prey. Since they have no sonar for early detection of an incoming attack, they can be taken down both mid-flight and while hiding in trees by aggressive raptor players.
Shit.
However, with their large frame, they're also far better in the intimidation department.
Back up!
Meaning they can frighten players away who might challenge their control over the best loot sources. Their slightly higher defensive stats, while still not great, can also let them tank a hit or two if they get lucky. Wouldn't exactly rely on this, but still, credit where credit is due. The last thing to mention is the bats' matchup against disease. So bats actually have one of the highest disease resistances in the game. Something they really do need because they live in such close quarters with each other. Because of this, the pathogen mains who do target bats have to spec into some extremely powerful virulence perks, which is why the pathogens that switch targets from bats to something else tend to be quite difficult for non-bat mains to fend off. Their incredible immune systems seem to have the secondary effect of granting bats unnaturally long lives. Most builds with similar metabolisms and sizes to bats only live a fraction as long. Overall, I think the bat sits at a comfortable C tier. Their choice of abilities is expensive, and I'm not entirely sure that it has paid off when weighted against the sacrifices they had to make to their base stats. Of the three flying factions in the game, I actually think bats rank the lowest overall. Birds have them beat in terms of versatility and practicality, as they can fly longer distances and have more durable wings. Insects have bats beat in terms of defense, being able to fly while still rocking some pretty solid armor.
Disgusting.
Nonetheless, the bat's flight precision is quite respectable, and highly skilled bat players can accomplish quite a lot using the bat's limited tools. I expect the bat's position on the tier list to rise as the current meta continues to centralize around the city biome, something microbats excel at. The bat's incredible disease resistance is also not to be overlooked. In fact, human data miners are trying to crack the code to see if the bat's immunity is something that can be used as a model for advancing the human's medicine ability.
That was great. I really enjoyed that. I like bats. They're cute. Except for those things that y'all have down in Australia, the like gigantic ones. And there was like that one, and it was like wrestling with the snake or something. Maybe that was fake. I don't know. But that shit was wild, and it did not endear me to bats at all. Auntie Who's In, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to, oh my god, my hair's a mess, y'all. It's all like flat on top. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. Also, I do have a TikTok with a couple little vids up, so if that's your thing, go ahead and check it out. And other than that, peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's getting lit.